Bank from Citibank.
Right. He has this dream. He's going to create a one-stop financial supermarket. He merges Travelers Insurance with Citibank, Smith Barney. You could do all your financial shopping under the umbrella of Citigroup. Oh, and the media loved him. Oh, Sandy Weil, a genius, brilliant.
Yeah.
How about calling Sandy Weil a greedy little pig?
Yes.
For putting all the commercial, the community banks out of business, for grabbing all the business for himself, him becoming a billionaire, the people that worked at banks that had respectable positions, now they become clerks for Bernie, or else they're stocking shelves at Walmart's. And what do we have to do? We have to bail out the pigs. When are people going to wake up?
Oh, we're talking with Gerald Celente. He's the premier forecaster. Who's all over the airwaves, on television, on radio, in writing, on his own website, Trend Alert Research. And Mr. Celente, are we starting to come to your thinking process? Are we starting to recognize that what you've been saying has not only been proven valid all these years on a consistent basis, that we're starting to recognize that you are right?
Yes. And by the way, that's trendsresearch.com. The Trend Alerts are what we send out in between the Trends journals. Our global recognition has never been higher because we never changed. We said this was going to happen long before it happened. We said why it was going to happen, and now people that are not following their leaders, that are not clinging on to their Obama security blankies, hoping that everything is going to be all right, just as they hung on to the Bush security blanket of terrorism. The people that are taking Depression-era self-defense measures want to know the real future. What is it going to look like, and how can I prepare myself and my family, rather than living under this bubble of illusion?
You seem to have an ability to transcend the constriction of language and to get your thoughts out there. And yet everyone else seems to have this difficulty. Is it because we're too politically correct on every level? Do we get, it's almost like a ball in a pinball machine. You hit this one and you hit another one. You get deflected here and you get deflected there. We don't know what we're thinking anymore. And we don't know. And we tend to want to look for a savior, somebody who could lead us out of a desert of disparity. And we don't know where to find this person.
I think you've hit it on a number of levels. We're looking for a savior, a messiah. Again, people look to Bush to save him from terrorism. Here's a guy that couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag, and a bunch of people that were behind him that couldn't find their way into one. Whether it's Cheney, Rumsfeld. I mean, these are the people that lead us into war. Look at them; they're a bunch of cowards. And it's the same thing. So people look to the Bush administration, and now they're like little children looking to Obama. This is a romantic comedy. I mean, my God, I'm listening to him coming in Russia, and what does he say? He's being interviewed by the media, and he talks about, his little daughter jumped into bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's so nice to hear what the kids have to say about Russia. And his wife, Michelle, he quote, a star in Russia, just like she's a star back here. Hey, don't talk to me like this. That's the way I feel about it. You're there to do business. Leave your wife and your kids and your mother-in-law at home. You're supposed to be representing America on a job, and he has to take his wife out to dinner rather than meet with Putin. And then it's not because of dinner, by the way. It's the same thing he canceled in a meeting with Sarkozy also to take Michelle out on the town. It's because Obama's paper teleprompted thin, and he can't face these guys, and none of them can. I don't know how people could look up to these little clowns, these little weasels, like Larry Summers, the Obama's chief economic advisor. All they talk about is how brilliant this guy is. This is the guy that dismantled the Depression-era Glass-Steagall Act under Clinton when he was Treasury Secretary, and picking up the dirty work from Robert Rubin, the former Treasury Secretary, and, of course, another Goldman Sachs boy, who made it legal for Wall Street to play these criminal games of credit swap, fault derivatives, and other exotic financial instruments that bankrupted the country.
Why do we think of him as a god? He was a failure even in Harvard. And why do we bring back those that have failed us before and bring them back into the fold again? I mean, is this the best we've got?
No, it's because the system is totally controlled by Wall Street. It's the Princeton, Harvard, Yale mafia. That's why you go to those schools. And all they do is, you look at who the Supreme Court's made up of, for God's sakes. Princeton, Harvard, Yale. What Supreme Court? Look at this mediocrity. Yeah. Look at them, this Sotomayor, all of them, the whole list. Roberts, they're what Supreme Court. I need these people to interpret the Constitution for me? What am I, an imbecile? They contort the Constitution to fit their narrow little minded ideologies and the special interests that they serve. And it's not the American people. It's a disgrace what's happened to this country. I'm 62 years old. I know what this country was. I know what it's become. And it's become a society that's no longer the entrepreneurial empire. We've become a country where it's only proper to save the too big to fails, because they've told everybody that their mother is better than yours. Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I'm a smart guy, but you make so much sense. It's actually hurtful to hear, but it's important that we do hear it, and you say it in such a lucid manner. I know we would have people calling throughout this half hour, but we don't have enough time to entertain all those calls. What should we be left with? Is there hope, or is this just,
There is hope, but the hope isn't false hope. Hope is waiting for something to happen. You have to take action.
How do we take action?
Become involved in your local government. One of the things that has to be done is government has to shrink. All of the stimulus money is only going to keeping these governments going. I mentioned to you that I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate.
Yes.
Look at the jokers up there.
Right.
It was the worst job I ever had. The worst job I ever had. And I had some lousy jobs. Matter of fact, I even worked on the old Macy's in New Rochelle as an electrician's helper during college.
Wow.
That was a great job. I used to get coffee for the guys. But as a young man and up in the Senate, I'd be hanging out in the back of the chamber with my buddy, chit-chatting about this or that. I was a young guy.
Yeah.
And a senator would walk in, and my buddy would leave me and follow the senator like a little puppy dog,
yeah,
and pull out the chair to help the senator sit down. And my friend had come back, being that I was raised by my mother and father, may their souls rest in peace. They left me with dignity. And my friend would come back, and I'd say, "What's the matter? The cat can't sit down by himself. He needs help." And that's all it is. Everybody up in Albany, all of the State House, the local, they suck their way up to the top. The greatest job from these politicians that they have is they can live at such splendor and luxury without ever having to get their fingernails dirty. It's a disgrace, and all you have to do is look at Albany, magnify it, and that's what's happened to America. We need to bring back the true spirit of this country based on the Constitution of our founding fathers that has been abrogated from administration to administration.
That's so well said. We've come to the end almost of the 20 minutes or so we've been speaking with Gerald Celente. He sends out a trend alert. His firm is trendresearch.com. Is that correct?
Trends, plural. Trendresearch.com.
So trendsresearch.com, so you can learn a little bit more about him. And I want to thank you for making the time to speak to our audience. It's a much smaller audience than Oprah Winfrey's, but even so, we need to know, and your word is gospel. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it very much. That's Gerald Celente from trendsresearch.com. You can look it up, and it's just fantastic to get and to comprehend where and how he derives at his conclusions, and how he reaches or distills the conduct of the world, and how it can be extrapolated toward where we are and where we can go, or where we should want to go, based on our lifestyle, based on